Hi, everybody. It's meteorologist Joe Chaffee. Welcome to the Joe Chaffee Show tonight on the 22nd of July, 2019. I'm going to write this date down in your weather memory book because I've been doing this. I've been doing weather for this coming up now on 40 years, and since 1986. So for the last 33 years here in this area, either on Long Island or for the New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, tri-state area, and of course on Facebook and my websites since 2014. I don't think I have ever seen what I saw today, which was the entire state of New Jersey. Every single county was under some sort of either a severe thunderstorm warning or a flash flood warning. And in fact, the vast majority, about an hour ago, the vast majority of the counties were under severe thunderstorm warnings, and I would say half the counties in the state were under both a severe thunderstorm and a flash flood warning. It literally is one of the craziest and most active severe weather days that I can remember. I was talking to Joe Rayo about this, my colleague, and we're both kind of scratching our heads to think back as to when we've seen a day quite like this. Thankfully, so far, no tornado warnings have been issued, although we have noticed that some of these thunderstorms have had some rotation. So why don't we go right to what's going on at the moment, and we'll start with we're going to start with the Upton radar. Now, of course, if you're watching this at 7:05 Eastern Time, if you're watching this on a replay, please remember that this is all dated. So make sure you go to your local National Weather Service office by going to weather.gov to check for the latest regarding radars and the state of any severe weather that's going on in your area. Also, I want to welcome those of you who are watching from my weather app live tonight. Welcome aboard. We're going to start with the Upton radar, and of course you have the option on the app to look at this through Zoom radar, which is really cool. So please, by all means, use that tool. So at the moment, we've got the coastal counties in New Jersey from Cape May County all the way up through Monmouth County under a severe thunderstorm warning. We also have severe thunderstorm warnings up for, I believe, still hanging on to, I think that's Essex County, across New York City, Nassau, and the western half of Suffolk County. We've got flash flood warnings going on. You can see all the different boxes here. And we kind of knew something was going on today when we looked at the fact I'm going to switch to the GOES satellite loop, and starting from the early frames, we broke out wide open in sunshine today across New Jersey and into Long Island. Temperatures in central and south Jersey reached up between 90 and 95 this afternoon, and the daytime heating was excessive. One of the things that the models had a real difficult time with today was the fact that the frontal boundary, which we knew was incorrect by having it laying right along or just off the coast. Usually what happens is the boundaries wind up getting pinned north and west, and it wound up being pinned far enough north and west that it just broke out wide open in those areas as I described. And remember, we're coming off this weekend heat wave where temperatures were between 95 and 100 for 2 days. So the atmosphere is about as juiced up as it can get. And if you look on the loop, the last few frames, you can actually see the blow up of the cloud tops going on as we start to shift that frontal boundary further to the east. Now let's go back to the radars. And again, this is the Upton radar. Looks like the heaviest cells now are shifted to the coast. We've seen them move also across Connecticut, and they're continuing to move now in central and eastern Connecticut. We've got a number of warnings going on there, and as well as looks like some new warnings. Some marine warnings have popped up now, and there's an additional, that's that old severe thunderstorm warning that's still up for western Suffolk County. So this is indeed a very crazy night. And here's the perspective from the Fort Dix radar in New Jersey. So the boundary zone is running just along and just south of New York City now. You can see the squall line that's formed along the coast and moving offshore. Now there is rain more of an overrunning type rain, but there are some embedded downpours and thunderstorms in that, back through northwest Jersey now and moving through southeastern Pennsylvania and point southward. The radars still remain very, very busy going forward, and we've got more work to do, because what's going on here right now is really in response to the weather, the frontal boundary, and all in the daytime heating. Now we've got a wave of low pressure. There's a developing little low that is running from this area that's going up in toward off the coast of Massachusetts over time. There is a second wave that we're going to have to deal with, and that is to our south and west. That is going to bring more rain in here for the overnight and into Tuesday morning. And you can see it here organizing on the wider radar view. All of this stuff that's down in western Virginia, West Virginia, we've got some moderate to heavy downpours here with some embedded thunderstorms back through Kentucky and Tennessee. All of this is moving northeastward. This is a second wave on that frontal boundary. We have to wait for that second wave to move through in order to bring genuine improvement to the weather. That may not happen until late in the day on Tuesday, or it might even hold off until Tuesday night and Wednesday, depending on how slow does this front, does it stall? It's going to stall out again as it moves just offshore. Is that second wave going to be enough to just kind of fire that front far enough south and east and get all of this out of the way? But you can just see how active the radar is here, not just in the northeast. And by the way, we've got some moderate and some patches of moderate and heavy rain running up into upstate New York and through New England. There is it is much cooler up to the north, and that is certainly evident when you look at you take a look at what's happened here with these weather obs. I just noticed, by the way, for example, Coyle Field in New Jersey is still 92. Now, I don't know how old that ob is, but it says here 6:10 p.m. So I imagine now that the thunderstorms have rolled on through on the next observation, that 92 was gone. And we had a temperature of 92 at 6 o'clock at Mount Holly, so I know that's gone. McGuire is now 72. You are seeing temperatures in northern New Jersey, for example, now in the mid-60s, with a 66 at Sussex County Airport. Once the storms arrive, the temperatures drop into the low 70s and even the 60s. You've got 60s across northern Pennsylvania. You've got low 60s in pockets of the up to the north in the Catskills and in the Hudson Valley. And we have even temperatures in the 50s through southern Vermont. Right now in Woodford State Park, it's 59. It's hard, there's so many obs here. West Dover is 59. West River below Townsend Dam near Townsend is 61. The low 60s throughout much of New Hampshire and into Maine. Of course, in the warm sector to the south earlier today, we had temperatures in the mid to upper 80s, got to 90 in New York City. So look, we certainly were cooking with gas today with regards to the heating. And down in Maryland and Virginia right now, temperatures have fallen back. Again, all trying to wait for this boundary to go through, seeing some wind shifts around to the west, which will probably help matters along over time. Quickly back to that radar loop, there's not a whole lot happening down in Maryland and into northeastern Virginia at the moment, but you've got these downpours to the southwest that are going to be rocketing through in short order. Just noticed, by the way, for a flash flood warning has now been extended to cover all of Long Island. So everybody in northern New Jersey, New York City, the Hudson Valley, southwestern Connecticut, and Long Island. So basically, the entire zone that I forecast for on the app right now is just under a flash flood warning until further notice. All right, I'm going to run through things real quick tonight, folks, because I'm going to probably have to jump off at some point to do some updating. First off, with regards to the upper air and what's happening, we've got this trough that's moving through, and you see those red streaks there. Those are the jet streaks that are going on at 10,000 feet, and this is at 8 o'clock tonight. Clearly, the atmosphere is in complete turmoil when you're seeing winds like this in the upper atmosphere moving through, and you see how it's kind of lined up. Now that those jet streaks stay with us all night, so when we get into that overrunning rain, somebody's going to wind up with substantial rain out of this, and that certainly justifies all the flash flood watches that are up from Virginia all the way up into New England. And then as we move into tomorrow night and Wednesday, those upper winds are going to gradually back around more to the west. And once that happens, that should allow for some improvement. The trough lifts out, and we should be fine for the rest of the week, and then transition over to heat and humidity as we maneuver our way through the weekend. So I'm just going to quickly run through what's happening here with regards to our frontal boundary. So, of course, here's our first wave, as I described. I'm going to make sure you guys can see the date and time on the GFS, which you can. So you see that first wave going by, second wave over New York City. That's for later tomorrow. Now, the GFS was trying to hang on to this front very close to the coast for Wednesday. Seems to have shifted it further to the east, so that's good. We don't want it to hang around anymore. It should turn dry and nice through much of the eastern United States for Wednesday and Friday. Notice the southern end of that frontal boundary runs down off the Carolina coast and off Florida into the Gulf of Mexico. We have a new tropical depression east just in the Bahamas right now, off the Florida east coast, which we'll talk about in a second. That frontal boundary is going to stay there through the weekend, and that pretty much protects us, but we are going to see a gradual return to humid conditions. And I think we're going to see our temperatures go up, but you'll notice that the westerly winds are up through the northern Great Lakes and into southern Canada. We still have sort of a high that's pushed back from Nova Scotia into the northeast. I think that means that we're going to turn very warm, and we may see temperatures climb well up into the 80s to near 90 by the time we get to Sunday and Monday, away from the ocean. But I don't think it's going to be able to get hot like what we saw this past weekend, because we're not going to have west and northwest winds like we had Saturday and Sunday. They're going to be more onshore-ish, and that will actually help to hold the temperatures back a bit. And we don't see any significant rain here going after what's happening now tonight into tomorrow. It looks like weather conditions are going to be reasonable rain-wise, with no big issues right through the early part of next week. And I think that makes total sense. Now, let's come back to the satellite. We noticed earlier this morning that thunderstorms were increasing off the Florida coast, and indeed, the Hurricane Center made a note of this during this afternoon. And then late this afternoon, if you look closely, there's a little bit of a twist here in the clouds toward the end, the last few frames. You're starting to see a little bit of turning. It's not a well-defined circulation, but there is a low-level circulation that has developed, and therefore the Hurricane Center has upgraded this into a tropical depression, Tropical Depression 3. Now, one of the things that we have going on here is the fact that we do have some stronger winds in the upper atmosphere that will impede development to some degree. The conditions at best are marginal for tropical storm development. So it's hard to imagine this getting much stronger than it already is, although you could just turn that around and say, well, this shit wasn't supposed to develop in the first place. So, we're going to watch this closely. One of the things I would look at is what happens tonight and into tomorrow. We'll see, it seems to be on a trend where it looks like it's trying to organize. So if it winds up, you wake up tomorrow morning and there's a tropical storm here, I wouldn't be totally shocked. The frontal boundary to the north basically protects us from this, keeps it from coming up the east coast. If you look at the flow on the upper air here for off the east coast, we're seeing southwest winds running up from Florida northeastward to off of Nova Scotia, and a westerly flow over us. So this really can't make headway up here. I haven't really looked at the shear conditions, the upper air wind shear conditions on this, and I really can't do it on this sector, and I don't have a whole lot of time to take a look. But I'm going to trust that the Hurricane Center says that upper level winds are going to be rather strong here off the southeast coast, so that would be an impediment to development. You don't have that trough the trough's in the wrong spot anyhow for anything to come up the East Coast. So it pulls out, and you have mostly a southwest flow from the southeast coast to out over the Atlantic. So it's hard to imagine anything to be able to come up the East Coast with an upper air pattern like this. Or I guess the other argument is, well, could it push across Florida and into the Gulf of Mexico? I suppose if it stays weak and responds to the lowest levels of the wind flows in the lowest levels of the atmosphere, that you could take the center of circulation in over Florida and then maybe move it out into the northeast Gulf. But that's sort of open speculation. Right now, it just doesn't look like it's any ideal setup here with regards to tropical storm development going forward. So I'm just going to really quick come back to you guys on the chat board. And by the way, if you haven't downloaded my weather app, you can go on Google Play or on the App Store and just search meteorologist Joe Cioffi or just plain old Joe Cioffi, Cioffi, and it's absolutely a freebie. Okay, nice crowd on tonight. Nice to see everybody. I see Donna Levasseur on, and I know she's probably watching on the app. We have the kid meteorologist. This could become a 40-mile. Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked at all if this winds up, if this becomes a minimal tropical storm. But it is what it is. And I've honestly, the fact that I've been focused so much on the severe weather hasn't given me too much time to take a look at this. All maps, by the way, of courtesy of tropicaltidbits.com. Should be your go-to site to look at weather models. Izzy D, we did see reports of some hail in parts of New Jersey. We did have some video tonight that I saw. I forgot where it was specifically, but definitely there was hail. And Paul Roman, the oppressive heat. Oh, absolutely. The atmosphere was just so right from yesterday with all that daytime heating. And then we had the extra bonus heating today, which, models didn't really do a good job of picking up on the fact that they had the high temperatures today on many of the models didn't take anybody out of the 80s. And it fooled even the forecasters for South Jersey, where it got to low and mid-90s today. So that frontal boundary just set up further north away from the coast, which really opened up the door. Javon Perry setting up a Patreon account. Thank you. Appreciate it, Javon. Check your emails, because I know they send a verifying email when you sign up. With security reasons, they make things a lot tougher. But if you have any, if you're having difficulty, let me know. Let's see if I can help you through all this. I'm sorry, car recalls. The stream was initially at 7:30. I had to move it back. For those of you who are looking for the live stream to start at 7:30, it's going to end at 7:30. I had to push it up because it's going to end sooner than that, by the way. I had to push it up because of the severe weather that's at work, and I've got I've got work to do. Nice to see you on board, Chris Alley. GFS had the right idea of the upper air with the with slow front moving 5 days in advance. Yeah, we kind of we saw that come to fruition as we were watching this late last week. It's always a matter of timing, and it's also the models notoriously like to push those fronts down to the coast too fast. They like to bring them through during the early morning hours. That usually doesn't happen. They usually try to come through more in the late afternoon or evening. I don't know if that's just a function of a typical model bias. It probably is, but it certainly did not take into account the daytime heating today that did occur. I think that really was the big deal through all of this. Izzy, thanks for hitting Super Chat tonight. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Wondering when this front is going to clear New England. I'm on the Maine coast near the New Hampshire border with all that overrunning rain. Good question, Jason. And I think after I answer it, I'm going to have to say goodbye because I got a crawl I got to put up. But I'm just taking a quick look here. So, your first wave is going by tonight. Your second wave goes by tomorrow. You should start clearing out later tomorrow afternoon and tomorrow evening. The third wave should pass well to your south and east. So you're going to clear out much along the same time in Maine as we'll probably clear out here down in New Jersey over into southern New England. Oh, Dio Nankumar is also car recalls. Okay, good to know, buddy. William Uber, cloud to ground lightning. Yeah, I just saw they just have now this all of Suffolk County and also much of Nassau now under a severe thunderstorm warning and a flash flood warning. Okay, I got to go, folks. Thanks for being here tonight. Really appreciate it as always. You can keep following things along either on my website, on Facebook, or on the weather app, or on Patreon. And if you're not on my Patreon platform, just really quick, I'll give you the link up, and it's just $2 a month, and you get a lot more weather there and extra videos. The Patreon members got a weather in 10 video this afternoon, right before the severe weather broke out. Okay, we hope Starlight Angel hopes that it doesn't cross Florida, heads to Destin. We hope the same thing. At least right now, from what I'm seeing, conditions really aren't all that favorable for that Tropical Depression 3, to develop. I'll probably do a little bit more on that tomorrow morning on my Weather in 5, and Patreon members should look for it also on Weather in 10 on Tuesday. Okay, folks, I got to cut it short. Have a great evening. We'll see you tomorrow.